In this video, I'm going to create a reverse shell payload, which is basically a Trojan. I'm going to be using Veil-Evasion for this on Kali Linux, and I'm going to be testing it on a few antivirus solutions as well as TinyWall Firewall. So first thing I'm going to do here is create the payload. I'm going to start with Veil-Evasion, list the payload options, and then for this one, I'm going to choose Python Interpreter Reverse TCP, which is number 24. You can see there's a lot of them you can choose from. Once I pick that, I have some options to set, such as the port number. I'm going to set to 1337 and the IP address of the attacker machine, which is the IP of this Kali box I'm using. So after that, I'm going to type generate, and it's going to ask me what I want to name the file. I'm going to put in PS shell, and then it's going to give me the file path for the payload and the handler. I'm going to copy this handler path and type in this command. I'll show you what that does in a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is put the payload into a share folder on the Windows machine, just for convenience for this demo. So you can see the payload right there. I'm going to run Windows Defender. I'm going to scan the file with Malwarebytes, and I'm going to run Malwarebytes rootkit scanner. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit so it runs through the scans quick. So right here you can see that Malwarebytes didn't detect anything. And here you can see nothing showing up on Windows Defender either. Now you can see Malwarebytes rootkit scanner saying there's no malware. So all three of these couldn't detect it. Alright, now I'm going to run the payload just by double clicking on it, and then we're going to go back to the Kali machine and we'll look at the handler that I talked about earlier. And it shows here that we have a connection from the Windows box. So I'm going to switch to that connection, and then we're going to run a couple commands. There's a ton of stuff you can do with this, but I'm just going to show you some quick examples. I'm going to run keyscan, which is a keylogger, so it'll record all the keystrokes that you make on the Windows machine. And I'm going to take a screenshot. So now let's just test the keylogger. I'm just going to go to youtube.com here really quick. And then we'll go back to the Kali machine and we can dump the key scan. And you can see youtube.com right there. And now we're going to look at the screenshot I took really quick. So I'm going to go to the file path, look at the picture, and you can see it's a screenshot of the desktop. So we can look at whatever the person on the Windows machine is looking at. Alright, now let's see what TinyWall does against this thing. So I restarted the computer. I'm going to open up TinyWall and just look at the connections and make it show us which connections it blocks. So now I'm going to run the program, go back to TinyWall and refresh it. You can see it blocked a ton of stuff here. But if you look for the port 1337, you can find it and see that it actually blocked the connection back to the Kali machine. So this effectively stopped the attack because TinyWall used whitelists. So anything that it doesn't know that's in the whitelist, it'll block automatically. So last thing we're going to check here is Komodo antivirus. And Komodo has a lot of different tools and a bunch of different ways it defends your computer. But here you can see after the scan runs, this still hasn't found any threats. So now let's see what happens when we run the payload again. Comes up with this little pop-up saying application isolated. So what that's doing is it's actually sandboxing the payload because it's not sure what it is. So we can see we still got a connection back from the Windows machine. If I try and run screenshot, I get an error. I'm going to try and run the keylogger. Let's type in some stuff really quick here. And if we check, it doesn't show anything. So Komodo stopped this even though it let it run by sandboxing it. So hopefully this video showed you the importance of having defense in depth. There's always going to be a way through a system or a software. So by implementing multiple defensive techniques, you make it much more difficult for an attacker to get in.